Intermittent. Yeah, let's see if she cranks just fine. Yep, starts right up, no extended crank. What's going on, everybody? We have ourselves a 2016 Dodge Ram with the 5.7 Hemi. That the shop here says is just randomly setting this P0344 camshaft position sensor intermittent code. They first tried an aftermarket sensor and it still was setting, so they actually did get a brand new one from Dodge. Put one in, worked for a little bit, they said, and then bam, check engine lights back on, same code. So they want me to basically verify wiring or figure out what the issue is with this thing, because they even pulled out the sensor, rotated the engine over, looking at the tone wheel to see if there was any cracks or breaks in the tone wheel. They said everything looked perfectly fine with it. So we're going to probably just put the picoscope on this thing and see what's going on with our signal. It being an intermittent, I've seen this code before with Dodges, and basically it's saying that the signal is there and then sometimes goes away and comes back very quickly. That's what I've seen before with these, or with Dodges anyway. So we're going to see what's going on with the signal with the picoscope, because with the intermittent faults, there's nothing better than the Pico. It's just got the best detail as far as buffer zone and everything, like how much it can buffer, the amount of detail it can capture. So we're just gonna go straight for that. All right, before I take the time to set all this up, the one thing you want to do is take a terminated lead and check your pin tension. Rule that out because it's fast, easy. So let's get down here to our cam sensor, which is right here, and we're just gonna take our terminated lead, and yes, that's got good pin tension. That one does as well, and that one. If you're unsure, stick it in there, turn it upside down, give it a wiggle. If it falls out, it's bad. If it stays in there, it should be pretty good. So as you can see, they all stay in there. So we're going to plug that back on there, make sure it's on there good, and we'll continue on with hooking the picoscope up. Basically, on the sensor, there's 3 wires, a 5-volt, a signal, and a ground. And I'm just back probed into each one of those down there. It's kind of hard to see down there, but just back probed into each one of them. And then all my grounds, of course, tied on to battery negative. So let me get the laptop set up now, and we might drive this thing, or depending on what we see, we might be able to figure this out just sitting here. So all right, so here on the picoscope, I can already tell probably channel A is my 5-volt. Let's turn on channel 3, and we're going to take channel 2 and put it on 5-volt. Well, let's do 10 volts on each one of them. So we've actually got 2 channels at 5-volt. So either A or C is my 5-volt reference. And apparently B is my ground. And that was the module just going to sleep. let's put this on 10 volts so it stops auto changing. So key on. We've got both of those right there. So just leave them kind of offset just a little bit so we can see the difference. And let's crank it and see which one's which. Okay, so channel A is our signal and channel C is our 5 volt. Perfect. And B is still our ground. So I want to see some more detail on B, so I'm actually going to change that down to 2 volt scale just to kind of give a little better detail there. And so far everything looks fine. Let's move this back down. So move this up out of the way. We do see like a lot of noise, especially on the ground side. I don't know if that's going to be an issue yet or not, but so far that signal looks okay. So let's give it a little rev. Nothing really standing out, so this right here this kind of worries me a little bit. You can see right here my 5 volts dips at the same time I get this ground spike, and my signal actually dips as well. I kind of don't like that. Let's see. See right here's another dip, but there's no signal there, so it doesn't really do anything to the signal. Wow, yeah, see that's pretty good. And this one happens right at the edge of it. And that is pretty big too. Let's move this on out of the way. See, we got just a little bit of ringing right here. These are definitely coils causing this. A little bit of noise. But does any of it matter? You can see right here, that little spot, it's in the signal. So is this what it's fussing about? Right here's a little bit here as well. That little dip. Actually, we've got a double line right there. Didn't even notice that. See here how we got a double line? And that drops way down. So the computer might actually pick that up. Let's just look at some other right here. See, this is a good one. See, we've definitely got a double line. The computer, I'm pretty positive, would have to see this one. Would have to. Because the computer, from my understanding, it just basically is reading this edge from time on to time off. So it's got to be seeing this as well. That is really bad. Like that coil, look how much noise it put in that ground. That's is a bad coil causing this. So I think I'm going to clear the code and drive it down the road and see if some of this gets worse. And kind of watch for when the code resets and then kind of what the scope captured. Well, I didn't even have to move. After running for just a few seconds, we get that. And on our scope capture, just kind of scrolling back through them, I ran across this one. That is definitely being picked up by the computer. That has to be. There's no way that's not. So, I'm pretty confident that this noise, look, I mean, that ground, look at that. This has to be from a coil, an ignition coil. So, I think I'm going to add a fourth channel to a coil sync and kind of get these spikes labeled out to see which coil is what. And I might just do, like, once I figure out which one it is, I might just take that coil and swap it with another one and see if this hard spike moves or if it stays on the same thing. If it stays on the same spot, it could be an issue with the driver in the computer. These things should have some way of filtering out the noise, and if that circuit's going bad, it won't move. Like, it'll stay in the same spot. So let me get a fourth channel hooked up to probably coil number 1, and we'll get these things labeled out. So on all data, we've got our firing order for the 5.7, and it shows number 1 is on our driver's side, and then 1843657 is the firing order. And Dodge uses 2-wire coils on these motors, so you need to use an attenuator before you hook this to your scope, or else you'll end up with a dead scope. Don't want that. So here's our number 1, and I'm just gonna get my lead here. And color wise, we've got a blue and a brown with white stripe. I'm pretty sure that it's the brown. Somebody's already poked this wire too. I don't know if you'd be able to see this or not, but it's got a poke in it. Let's see. Let me try to see the other color in here. Okay, so the brown and yellow is the power feed. So we're gonna go into this blue wire. There we go. Now I already got it hooked to my battery ground in there. Okay, so plugged into the scope. We need to turn this channel on and do it on a 20-volt scale. Alright, so on a scan tool here, I'm going to clear that code. Okay, just verify. No codes in the ECM. And we've got the scope running here. I'm just gonna crank it. I want to see just kind of how long this thing takes to set this code. Already set. So I can stop the scope. I know I've got this captured. Whatever triggered that, I have it. So we see this yellow here, channel D. This is our number 1 coil. Oh, right there. That's probably it. This one right here. Look at that. That is very substantial. That had to be what set the code. Has to be. Wow. So that is that right there. So if our firing order was what now? 1843. So we've got 1843 and 6. Looks like number 6 is our culprit. Yeah. So 1843 6 right there. In this after the 3 we get a 2, so number 6. So I'm going to take number 6. We're going to swap it with probably just 8 since it's right there, and we'll see what happens. So actually looking at this, it almost looks like the spikes caused the sensor to kind of reset, like re-trigger almost. Because like if I take this and measure this out, okay, we can see this one is 1.6 milliseconds, and then this one is also 1.6 milliseconds. So this spike actually shouldn't be here. When I first looked at it, I thought maybe the spike was turning this off and it was coming back, but no, this right here shouldn't be here at all. It's pretty interesting. That ground side is so terrible looking, so much noise in that. But let's get this coil swapped and see what happens. Got the coil out, and I'm not really sure what's going on with that boot being all crooked like that, but even like looking down in here, let's see if I can get you. You can see how the inside of that boot is like dirty. I don't know if I can get this in the light good enough. You can kind of, hopefully that's going to pick up. See, one side's real clean and one side's real dirty. So, is this thing even sitting on a spark plug? Kind of thinking not. I can't think of a reason why that thing should be that dirty. Let's see if we can see down in the hole here. This side would have been the clean side, and this side's the dirty side. I think we definitely got 2 different spark plugs in there. That one's got a red dot on the top of it, and this one don't. So I think I might actually take these spark plugs out as well. Yep, definitely 2 different spark plugs. Got the NGK here and the shitty auto lot. And as you can see on the auto lot, focus, we've got this powder. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm really starting to suspect this plug was not right, and that arc is probably not going through this plug. I think that's what this powder is from. This one's clean. So, good old auto lot plugs. Worst plugs ever made. I'm kind of tempted to clean this thing up and put a different plug in it and see what happens. The inside of this it's very bad looking. Like, just took the plug boots off. They just sit on here, and look at that. It's almost like the spring in there wasn't even touching that. So if this wasn't sitting on the plug, there would be no pressure pushing on that spring, letting it sit on that correctly. I'm really positive this is a cause of our cam sensor problem. So strange. Let's clean this up. I'm gonna clean it up. We're gonna put it back together and see what happens. Okay, so the two plugs, they actually had a scrap engine here. So I robbed plugs out of it, stuck in here, cleaned the coil up. I didn't see a coil laying around. And I put the coil back in the same spot. It's still in number 6. So let's clear the code again, crank it, and watch the scope, see what happens. Codes is cleared. Get back over here to our scope. Alright, scope's running. Okay. So far, no code. I'm still seeing a pretty good bit of noise on the scope ground. But is it going to matter? So far, no code. A little rev and so far we're looking good. See if we can put it under any kind of load and still no code. Have we fixed it? I'm gonna go drive it and see what happens. But so far we're looking good. Well, it reset. But I did have to drive it for a while. Probably took it about a mile down the road before it reset. I did get the scope stopped. So let's go over it and see if we can find it. And I didn't move it off of cylinder 6. Oh, here it is. Here is our culprit. This one right here. As you can see, we're still in that number 6. So we got 3 spikes here, and then the 2. The 2 is where number 6 is firing, and it is definitely dropped out completely. That is dead on with the coil ring, like the coil firing. So that coil is definitely causing this as well. So I'm going to move it now. I'm going to put it on number 4 and see if we can move this around, just to verify that this isn't an internal problem, you know, with the circuit that's supposed to help with this ringback noise. And tell them that they need a coil if it moves. So just watching the scope as I'm driving, I can kind of see every now and then the 3rd spike from our number 1 sync is a little rough looking. So I think we've definitely moved the issue. So let me get stopped back here at the shop and we'll look at this. The code hasn't reset though, so maybe just moving it has satisfied the PCM. But let me get stopped and we'll see if we can pick out these spikes and make sure that they have moved. Alright, so as you can see, here's our number 1, 8, 3, 4. I think this one's the one I need. Let me look at my firing order. Nope, 1, 8, 4. So this one right here. So 1, 8, and 4. And 1, 8, and 4. So we can still see that it is kind of spiking pretty good. Just in relation to everything else, you know, this one gets a lot higher of a voltage kick right here. And as you can see right here, it kicked the sensor pretty good. It didn't set a code yet, but we've definitely moved the issue. So this thing needs a coil. Probably needs a couple coils, really, because some of these are pretty noisy, like this one here. What's the last one, the firing order? Number 2. So number 2's got a pretty good kick to it as well. Number 1's actually got a pretty good kick as well. So this thing's got a few coils. Like, look at this. This right here. How did it not set a code for this? So that's the diagnosis. This thing could use a tune-up. I'm going to suggest they put all new spark plugs in it, the correct ones. This truck, I'm pretty sure, is supposed to have NGKs. So get the correct plugs in it and probably a set of coils. And I can tell just by looking at this thing, everything has been out. And I don't know if somebody has put coils in it. Maybe they bought some aftermarket ones off of Amazon or something. I'm not sure. But I think they've all been replaced already with some cheap ones. They kind of look a little cheap. So that's the diagnosis on this one, everybody. A bad coil or plug or combination of the two spiking the PCM, causing a cam sensor fault. You don't see that every day, but it is an excellent reason why you need a scope. And you need one capable of picking up this kind of detail. So that's going to be it for this one. That's my diagnosis. So hopefully you guys liked this, enjoyed it. Maybe you learned a little bit of something. Maybe you're convinced that you need a scope now, because this one is a prime example of why you need a scope in your shops, a good scope. So I'll tell the shop here what they need to do with it, whether or not the customer goes through with it, who knows. But that's it for me. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it. If you found this pretty interesting or informative, share it with some of your colleagues. If you got any questions, leave them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them like I always do. Thanks for watching, everybody.